I'll tell you one thing, Leon, is the thing that you've got to remember is that the really good stuff, the really good addicting charity work is when you do it and nobody knows about it.
Yes.
That's when you really feel it, because there's no making yourself righteous. There's no putting yourself on a pedestal, because the only person in the world that knows about it is you and the person you helped.
I'm Leon Davis, and this is One Good Question. Welcome to another episode of One Good Question. I'm your host, Leon Davis. Thank you for tuning in this week. I hope everyone is doing well out there in their quarantines or social distancing, however you choose to define it. As far as me and my family, we're doing pretty well. We have a little bit of cabin fever. We try to get out for bike rides every now and then. I'm doing a lot of cooking, gaining a lot of weight. Not a lot, but gaining weight. If you follow me on Twitter, you can see my Easter dinner exploits, cooking a prime rib. It turned out outstanding, and it was quite delicious. I hope everyone out there is doing well and staying home as much as possible. If you're a healthcare worker, we're thinking about you. We are sending good vibes your way and prayers and blessings. This week's guest is Harry Cross. He is a rideshare driver here in my local town. He is known around town as Rideshare Harry. He shares his exploits on Facebook. Just search Rideshare Harry, and I'll also have a link in the show notes so you can find that. He is in the process of compiling his exploits into a book. More than just being a rideshare driver, though, he is a local angel that always finds ways to bless our community. So we will be talking a little bit about that today, as well as some of his exploits out there as a rideshare driver. So here is Harry Cross answering his one good question. Harry, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Just trying to lay low and take care of my family in these times. So you know how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm doing the same. I'm laying low, trying to see how little I can leave the house in a week. I'm down to, last week I was down to maybe 4 times total. This week, we're only at Wednesday. I think I left on Monday once, and that was it. And it's great. Enjoying the time with the family, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's been really nice. Before this, I was spending like 12 hours a day at work, so it's been kind of a blessing. You know, you look at it as a chance to spend a little extra time with your family. So I'm gonna go ahead and get you started here. Are you ready?
Sure.
All right, outstanding, man. Your question today, as a rideshare driver, you have an opportunity to see a wide range of people across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and you managed to maintain your generous heart and demonstrate an enormous amount of empathy in our community, immediate community, talking about Little L. So what principles steer you away from becoming cynical?
Well, I think the biggest thing that you've always got to remember in any type of interaction or relationship is that everyone has good in their heart somewhere. Everybody's kind. Everybody to some degree is a good person. You just have to give them the opportunity to be. So my cynicism is kind of not rooted in the fact that people are bad by nature, but it's more about, is today going to be a day where it's going to be rainy and cloudy, and the things that bother me aren't necessarily people. It's more of environmental issues. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Are there any of those experiences that speak to you more than any of the others?
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I find is that when I was first starting as a rideshare driver, there was a level of excitement to it, to the point where, wow, what kind of adventures and what kind of crazy people am I going to encounter today? What kind of madness and what kind of underbelly does Dallas have? And I guess in a sense, that's me being cynical in a way of, hey, I'm expecting people to disappoint me and have bad behavior. And then as things moved into another direction where I kind of accommodated people in town and shifted my kind of the way I operate towards more of the suburban business traveler, as opposed to it was easier to find the intricacies that make everybody them, to the point where, it was so easy for me to find the good in all the people. And most of the people that I give rides to now are what I consider friends. Some of the clients I've had for almost 4 years. So, I mean, honestly, I've had a great run and a blessed life as far as interacting with people in town. Even beyond that, down into other parts of the DFW Metroplex, that you become connected in a way where you're providing a service, but you're there for them in a way that you're a friend, you're a confidant. I have one client who starts conversation and says, well, when you're 36, because I know she's going to ask me about her husband. I'm like, look, I'm much better looking and more intelligent than your husband. We can't compare each other. It's, just joking around.
Yeah.
But the reality is that those people are a big part of who I am now. In 4 years of interactions with people that normally you wouldn't interact with. And one of the things I like to compare to is a car is the size of an elevator, and you could fit 5 people in an elevator, not necessarily too comfortably. It'll be a little tight. The car is similar in the respect that 5 people are going to fit not necessarily comfortably in a car, but the opposite is true in a car than in an elevator. An elevator, nobody talks if they're strangers or even people that know each other. They tend to like stand there and kind of just, wait for the ride to be over. And it could be 20 seconds, a minute and a half, depending on floor stoppage and whatever. But in a car, which is taking you to another place, it's more horizontal, of course, it's almost impossible not to talk. The awkwardness is to be silent. And that's been kind of a blessing in the sense where, man, I've learned a lot about me and about the people that I interact with to be better suited in life, to communicate, to advise, to be a better dad, be a better husband, be a better neighbor. There's things that I attribute to my journey that are blessings, and there's detriments too. My car sitting outside has 275,000 miles on it. It's only 6 years old. So, there's upsides and downsides to it all, but I wouldn't trade anything for the relationships that I've been able to build with people that I would have never spoken to. It would normally be elevator passengers where we would be silent. But in this world, I get to be their friend.
That's cool. It's interesting that you mentioned relationships because I think some people like you and I'm in the food service restaurant business, and it's kind of a natural thing to build those relationships with some people, but then some people it's not. But I think right now in these times, people are starting to learn the importance of those relationships because being isolated, having people to lean on that aren't necessarily going to be right there with you all the time, really what's going to help a lot of people kind of trudge through this. So it's an interesting point. It's come up a lot recently, actually. So
yeah. And I mean, when everything started happening with people getting stay-at-home orders and stuff, people in town are probably well aware, and as you are, that I just started saying, hey, everybody in town that gave me this lifestyle where I can spend a lot of time with my kids and family, because again, like I said, I value the relationships. I'm not going to get wealthy being a rideshare driver, that's for sure, but I balance life enough where I get the time that I need with my family and friends, and I also make enough money to pay the bills. But the thing is I said, hey, town, you've made my life possible to live this life that I love. And one of my favorite things to say is that it's not work. I don't work a day in my life, because if you're having fun when you're doing things that make money, it's not really work. So I've been blessed to not have to work. So now we need people in this town to step up to the plate to help people that are struggling. And I felt, hey, my responsibility lies to them to help them, emergency responders, the seniors in town, getting the things they may need and getting that sense of, hey, this is going to be okay, because they give me that sense all year round. So that's been really amazing, and it's been really a great side effect or byproduct of what I do.
that's cool. That's cool. For people that aren't from Little Elm and don't necessarily know exactly what you've been doing around town, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, actually, what was interesting is I never intended at first to kind of like be the Santa Claus in April. Again, I like attention to some degree, but at the same time, I want that positive vibes, the negativity to be pushed away. As all this came to the forefront, the negativity is just stacking. And what I've said is there's nothing more contagious and spreads faster than Corona, than the negativity that comes from it, the misinformation, that kind of thing. So I just said, hey, I announced on social media, hey, if you need something, if you're a senior, a first responder, a nurse, a person with a special need, a disabled vet, anybody that needs a little extra help, I'm more than happy to go and get what you need. I'll pay for it, get a receipt, reimburse you, and there you go. And that was never, intended for me to be super charitable, just to give me something to do because my wife, again, wants me out of the house a little bit before this got to be as serious as it was. And she was, hey, do something that's positive. So I did. I went around and I started getting donations. Nurses asked me, "Can you get me toilet paper?" Toilet paper, of course, is the hottest thing out there. And the thing is that as soon as it started, it evolved. All of a sudden, people wanted to help. They wanted to be involved, and the best way they could know how was to just give either materials, whether it's paper products or sanitation, cleaning supplies, or diapers, or you name it, food even, and then money. So what was fun is I went to Walmart to buy the things that people gave me money to buy, and then I noticed that there was people there. And this is what I like. It's from a movie. This quote is the 1,000-yard stare. It's from a war movie where they're discussing, time in Vietnam, and you can tell who's been there a long time because they have that 1,000-yard stare. And when I went into Walmart, I saw some people have that 1,000-yard stare where like, they don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes, let alone next week. And they're struggling to find the food that they usually buy. They can't buy generics because they're all sold out. And I just felt like, this person really needs something. So I had gotten donations, some monetary donations, over $100. So I went to the line and I said, hey, are you doing all right? How are things? Like, kind of feeling them out to see what's going on. And you can usually tell, that they're having a rough time of it. They usually have a list and a calculator and coupons galore. And I said, I'm going to buy your groceries today. Not because I want anything in return, but because it looks like you can use a hand. It's not my money. It's the town's money, and they're giving back to you. So don't thank me. Thank the town for doing it. And it was amazing because that eye contact, that connection, that spark that you had with that person for that one moment, it made their day, of course. It made my day. And I'll tell you, there's nothing more addicting than charitable work, to make someone feel good, to make someone's day that needs help. That, my friend, is where it's at. So it didn't take long for me to realize that, hey, there's a lot of these people around with this 1,000-yard stare. Let's see if we can help some more of those. By the time we got done, I think in less than a week's time, we helped 16 families get groceries. One woman, she was in line, and she has a disabled vet husband who served in Desert Storm, and he's 100% disabled. She had $200 in her bank account and her groceries in line, which she looked like she was fretting. I walked up and said, "Who needs her groceries paid for?" And she jumped for joy, and she only had $200 in her bank account. Her groceries were $175. And that moment for her made the difference for her making it. That's going to help her stay home, to help her husband not catch this terrible disease that people are getting. That was a beautiful moment. That was my favorite one, next to the Walmart worker. 35 years at Walmart. I went in there with money in my pocket that people had given me, and I'm like, these workers are working their tail off, getting harassed for toilet paper and things that they can't produce, and they're working hard. So I went up to two workers just standing there, and I said, hey, do you know anybody here that's working that may need a little help? You guys are doing a great job. I want to see if there's, and the lady looks to their friend and points to her and said, she needs help. And I said to her, so I want you to get a shopping cart, and I want you to come back here, and it's going to be like the shopping you haven't done in a while. I want to ask you, and I don't want to embarrass her, I'm not going to use her name, but I said, when's the last time that you went grocery shopping and not had to worry about how much things cost and how much you could get and how much you could budget for? And you didn't have to sit there and make decisions on what you can have and what you can't. And her husband, also disabled. She had lost her second job because of the virus. She was working extra shifts to try to keep the bills going. And I said, I want you to shop today like you have nothing to worry about, that you don't have to worry about what it costs or which thing to buy. When the last time you've done that, when was the last time? She couldn't remember. I said, please do that. I'm going to go sit over by the pharmacy. And I sat on the bench for probably 45 minutes, and it was $350. that morning, she told me in checkout, she tried to get a few things for her and her husband, and her card got declined. So she had no money. But she went through her day and helped people out, and was herself and did everything she could because she knew that that's the best way that she could deal. And at the end of the day, I was blessed to find her, and she found me in a way that connected. And I've seen her 3 or 4 times since. I've gone in there a couple times, and I ask her how her husband's doing, and he's doing great. She got all kinds of vitamins and things that she hasn't been able to buy in a long time for him. And that, my friend, again, is an addicting thing. I was a blessing. And I've also made a friend. Whenever I go into Walmart, I know who to find.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. I think through this all, we're going to definitely find a better appreciation for our neighbors and what they're going through. So, and yeah, so that's awesome, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
All right.
It's not, you don't have to thank me, because I should thank everybody, because I'm telling you, like I said, there's no feeling like it. And when you do it, 14, 15, 16 times, that's something that you can't beat it. It's just, it's like getting married, having your kids, and Christmas all in one. And the thing that's sad though is that there's people out there in our town. We have a blessing where this is a good place to live. Little Elm's a great town. It's a great place to raise your kids, a great place to work, a great place to eat. There's nothing bad about it. But there's people in this town that before this virus, that was their life, and that is their life. And whether there's a virus or not, that's how they go shopping every week. And there's some people now that haven't got a paycheck in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or may not get one, or may not qualify for stimulus or unemployment. Those are the people that we really need to look out for in the next 2 to 3 weeks, because they're the ones that are really going to be hurting for just food, just things that keep them through this. Hopefully, we can all step up and lead the rest of the town through this by example, and I was blessed a couple times where people were contacting me on Facebook. Hey, I heard you bought my aunt groceries at this store. And I'm like, I wasn't even there. So that told me that other people were doing it too, which was also great. So, that's one of the things that I want to remind people too, is that when this is all over, there's still those people that are going to have to live this life, and we should still help them year round, not just when there's a pandemic, all over the planet.
Yes. Yeah, we should definitely make sure we're in a position to share the blessings we've been given with others. So.
Sure.
Ready to move on to the house question.
Yeah, I've known this question. I've kind of struggled with this one because there's been a lot of advice given. I'll let you ask the question though.
Yeah, no problem.
So you go ahead and I'll get into it.
Yeah, no problem. So go ahead and tell me one piece of advice that you've received, not followed, now that you look back, wish you would have followed.
I think, for me, the advice when I was coming out of high school and I was a young man in my early 20s, people had a lot of advice for me. You should do this, you should do that. People told me that I needed to, find a trade. I wasn't college bound. I worked after high school. They're like, you need to do something that suits you. We work with your hands. And, I'm an intelligent guy. I've always felt like I've had great, ability to use my mind to do something good. So people told me I needed to go to trade school or to get a job that was with a union shop, because where I grew up in Western New York, there's a lot of blue collar workers. So one of the things that I didn't listen to was that advice. And I decided, and this is kind of a cheesy story, is my wife and I have been together for 25 years, dating and married. And she went off to college a little younger than me. So I graduated before her and we started dating. She went off to college and I went off to college to follow her for love, not because I wanted that extra, that degree for any other reason but to be with her. And I think one of the greatest things that I've gotten from that is that, she wouldn't want to come traveling back to where I lived every weekend in the snow. I knew that sooner or later some guy would say the right things and steal my girl. So I think the best advice I didn't listen to was to go into the service or go to the trades and to work a blue collar job. The best advice I got was to go to college with my wife, in which, of course, I don't need a degree to do what I do now, but I got to be with her and build a life with her. and learn from her. She's a kindergarten teacher, to be good. And that's what leads us here today to talk, is me not following that advice from people long ago, which would have led me into wearing Buffalo Bills sweatshirts and trudging through the snow with somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to knock people that live that life. But for me, I knew there was something else. And again, that's led us here today.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I like that. So we're going to do something. I'm going to give you a little bit more time. I want to hear like your most unique rideshare story. I've heard a couple of them. What's like your go-to crazy rideshare story?
Well, the crazy one is, my favorite one is the one I think I told you when you rode with me, is my most boring ride and exciting ride was in the same ride, which is, most rideshare drivers can't boast this fact that I had the most crazy thing and boring thing happen at once. So a lot of times when I first started, I would sit at home and turn on the app and let requests come in, and I go pick the person up. And it's got a radius on it, so you're not going to get a request. Sometimes it'd go to Denton, which was annoying because the lake's there and people don't realize that. But I'd sit here, and I got a request over in Oak Point, which is west of us for people that aren't from the area. And it was about 12 minutes to get there. And I went to the house, and the name on the account was a female name. So I thought it was kind of odd when a young man came out. And I didn't ask any questions, but if you aren't aware, when you're a driver for Lyft and Uber, you don't know where you're going until the person's in your car and you hit the button. So this person was going from Oak Point to DeSoto, which is about 52 miles from what I understand down 35, which is quite a hike, hour and 10-minute ride. And as soon as the young man gets in the car with a backpack, he sits in the back seat, passenger side. As you can tell from the interview, I like to talk. He puts his earbuds in and falls asleep within, I'm telling you, 30 seconds. It was like a kid in a car seat. He's drooling and everything. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? An hour and 10 minutes of silence, I guess. I listened to ESPN radio, and it was incredibly boring. And, the money wasn't bad, but it wasn't good at the same time, and it put me in an area that I wasn't familiar with. People were, kind of leery looking at me like, what are you doing here? And I was kind of like, well, I don't know. So I went and dropped the young man off at the end of the cul-de-sac. And as he's getting out of the car, I'm grabbing my phone off the holder. I see a pink flash in my window to my left. My mirror, I look, and there's a woman chasing the guy that I just dropped off on the sidewalk. And, I can't unsee this image, but her bare behind is hanging out in the wind because she's wearing a very short skirt that flew up, and she had nothing underneath. And again, I'm like, what am I looking at? So I turned my car around with my phone in my hand, and I see in her right hand she has like Michael Myers size kitchen knife from Halloween. She's ready to cut him. And I'm like, whoa. So I had my window open and I yelled, hey, what are you doing? She's like, mind your business. And I'm like, all right, I guess so. But I took a picture of her for two reasons. For one, when I tell this story, and again, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody. I don't think she's that identifiable, other than she's wearing a Marilyn Monroe t-shirt, a pink skirt that was way too small. And she had probably the smallest feet I've ever seen in an adult human being. But she was quick, but she didn't have any stamina. After about 12 steps, she was done, and he wasn't going to get caught. But I took the picture again for the purpose of telling the story so people would believe me. And for two, if he ended up in a ditch with a slit throat later that day, I didn't want to be the last person in the world he was seen with before he met his demise. So I have the picture still. I tell the story occasionally. So again, most boring ride, hour and 10 minutes, and the 30 seconds of pure chaos that was, again, and I'm telling you, you won't believe it until I show you the picture.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. You showed me the picture.
It was pretty funny. Wow. Yeah, I'm in the process of like taking all of my experiences, putting them on paper. I have 60,000 words, so that's one of 50 stories I have, and not all my stories are, scandalous and the underbelly. There's some really heartfelt moments that I've had as a driver of people that have had life-changing experiences the day that I met them. Someone had to go see their mother goodbye in hospice care, and I was the last person they would see before they saw their parent, and that's really odd. That was a tough day to deal with, and there's things like that happen that aren't, necessarily all the scandalous stuff that people like the juicy tidbits to hear about. there was rewarding things as well.
Cool. Where can people find you? Do you have any kind of social outlet?
Well, you can find me on, I have a Facebook page where, and it's been kind of dusty because when I moved into the suburbs, as far as work goes, where all the guys that are going to DFW or, suburbanites going to concerts and football games, there's no scandal in that. And there's no really interesting stories for the most part. Most people I give rides to now I know. But, I have 60,000 words of accounts. It's Rideshare Harry, which is one word. You search it on Facebook, and you'll find all the stories that I've written there, which, some are funny, some are sad, some are crazy, and some just make you scratch your head and wonder how people could be how they are. But you can go there and check it out. Appreciate any feedback. Again, I haven't written anything in a while there, but I'm still in the process of putting it all together for a book, hopefully an ebook in the next 6 months to a year.
Okay, awesome. Well, I wish you all the luck in that. Let me know when that's done. We'll definitely have to talk again and do a little book promotion. I've done that once already. I've had the opportunity to do a little book promotion for someone. So, definitely would love to do that for you.
Awesome. So. Well, I appreciate that, sir. And your time today has been great. Got to find things to keep yourself busy these days.
Yes.
I've been painting. I've been doing some charitable work still, kind of quietly. I'll tell you one thing, Leon, is the thing that you've got to remember is that the really good stuff, the really good addicting charity work is when you do it and nobody knows about it.
Yes.
That's when you really feel it, because there's no making yourself righteous. There's no putting yourself on a pedestal, because the only person in the world that knows about it is you and the person you help. And that, my friend, is what I recommend to anybody listening. Try to do that this week. Go do something nice for someone that nobody needs to know about. You don't need to post it on social media. You don't need to tell your friends. You don't need to boast about how you bought someone Starbucks in the drive-thru. Just do it because it's the right thing to do, and you'll feel great when you do it.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree. So I will definitely make sure that I follow that advice myself. My wife and I try to do that as often as possible also. Thank you very much for your time, Harry. And
no problem.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing all the great things that come out of the good you put in our community, man. I appreciate it.
Great. Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. That was Harry Cross answering his one good question. I definitely agree with him that we need to start looking for ways to bless people in our communities whenever we can, however we can. I believe at the end of the day, this is how we're going to get through all of this. I hope you enjoyed listening today. If you did, please just share it with one person. That way we can continue to grow our community. I have a lot of bonus content coming up, as well as the new content that I promised you. I have made a decision on how to brand it, so be on the lookout for that in the near future. I hope everyone out there is staying safe, staying healthy, taking care of each other, and staying home. Thank you for listening. This has been One Good Question. Once again, I'm your host, Leon Davis. Theme music by DJ Seth Lowry. Other music courtesy of Epidemic Sound. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you may listen. To catch up with us on social, check the show notes.